We are continuing in our series of figures of speech where we are looking at figurative language. So I know that this language is not supposed to be taken literally, no. Today we are going to focus specifically on sound devices, one of them being onomatopoeia. Just to recap, not to be taken literally, it goes beyond the literal meaning of the words. We are going to have to use our imaginations when we work with figures of speech. In this slide, we are specifically going to focus on our sound devices. Now, what that means is it's basically words that's going to show me the meaning of words through the use of sound. And sound here is going to be our key word. Our words are still going to paint us a picture. That's why we call it figures of speech. We are trying to paint a picture, create a figure. The words themselves sometimes have sounds. Now I'm thinking of onomatopoeia like whack or bam or meow. Or sometimes the sound is going to make an image that the writer is talking about a bit more vivid. In whatever way. Maybe he's describing the sea and then he's going to use a lot of S sounds to invoke that image, take us to that image of the waves crashing on the beach. So some examples of sound devices that you need to know will be alliteration, assonance, and onomatopoeia. The big thing is use your ears when we are going to look at these figures of speech. Let's start with alliteration. The definition of that is where a sentence or a phrase of words start with the same letter or sound. Now, I used a very simple example here. Morgan Mouse munched marshmallows merrily. And there you can see the M sound is repeated. Morgan Mouse munching marshmallows merrily. And the picture that should invoke for us is that of, that must be nice that Morgan is munching his marshmallows. So the picture of Morgan enjoying his marshmallows. Another example of alliteration here is seashell, seashell, sing me a song. In this case, I get that repetition of the S sound, and that creates a rhythm very similar to the rhythm of waves crashing onto a beach. If you can just imagine that sound of waves crashing onto a beach. So, the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words to create an image is what alliteration basically boils down to. Again, it's all about the sound that we are going to hear. Let's look at some of the functions and examples of alliteration. The repetition of the sound maybe is used to draw my attention to a line. Maybe it can also be used to create a rhythm. Let's look at this example. Soft, smooth snow falls silently from the sky. The snow is so silvery and small. Slowly you slip and slide on the snow. So that repetition of my S here, in this case, it's drawing my attention back to the subject, that is snow, that also starts with an S. And now I immediately link all the words that start with an S with my snow. Snow is soft, snow is silent, snow falls from the sky, snow is small, you can slip and slide on the snow. So in this case, alliteration is used to draw attention. Sometimes it is used to create a rhythm. If you look at this nice tongue twister here, professional pumpkin pickers are prone to pick the plumpest pumpkins. It forces me into a rhythm. And also that repetition of the P sound draws again my attention to pumpkins, and then everything that starts with a P, it's plump, and the pumpkin is plump. If you think you are good at this, you can always give the following tongue twister a bash. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. So very clearly there you see it creates a rhythm. When you use the alliteration would, chuck, would, cut, could, much. If you were laughing at me trying this tongue twister, you give it a go. Right, let's look at a practice question. How can you expect to find alliteration in your exams and tests? What can I ask from you? So I'm obviously going to give you an example. The river rushed rapidly over the rocks. And my first port of call is I will always ask you to identify the sound device. So then you're going to have to give me the name of the sound device. Your second step would be to identify the link between the sound and the subject. So my sound, what sound was made? And my subject, what is this passage about? So the what, insert sound here, sounds like insert subject here. Now if I look at what sound is being made here, that would obviously be the repetition of the R sounds. And what is it supposed to sound like? A river that is rushing rapidly over the rocks. So that's the sound that is made, and my subject is a river. Then I can get to my third step, and I can now determine whether the sound is effective. Was the sound device used effectively? And in order to answer that question, I need to decide to what degree does the sound match the image. Now let's have a look. Your first mark and your easy mark is going to be to identify the sound device. And that's obviously alliteration. But now I must make a link between the sound and the subject. So the repetition of the R sound sounds like a rushing river. Why? It is effective because it creates the rhythm. It makes me want to read faster, which flat matches the flow of a fast river. So the river rushed rapidly over the rocks. That forces me to read that passage much quicker, and that then creates a rhythm that matches the flow of the river. So I can say that this is quite an effective sound device. Alliteration is used effectively here. Right, our second sound device that we are going to look at under figures of speech is assonance. This is the repetition of an identical or similar vowel sound. Again, see there, the sound is important. So clap your hands and stamp your feet, or try to light the fire. It beats as it sweeps, as it cleans. Another example, the early bird catches the worm. Now just be careful here again. It's going to be about the sound, because these vowels don't look the same, but they do sound the same when you pronounce it. The early bird catches the worm. So that repetition of the So it's again the vowel sounds that are being repeated, and they're going to have different functions. So listen up, listen carefully to the sound. Let's look at some functions that assonance might have. Why do we use them? And I'm going to look at them by using examples. So sometimes assonance creates rhythm because it involves a lot of repetition. Now, I have placed a link here for you. I'm also going to put it on your classroom where it takes you to some rap songs that uses assonance quite effectively to create rhythm. I think that's going to explain it much better than any of my attempts. Moving on to another function of assonance. Sometimes assonance is used to draw an attention to specific words, just like we saw in alliteration. Again, it's the repetitive nature, it's the fact that it's being repeated that we are going to draw, it's going to draw our attention. We're going to focus these words together automatically. For example, I wandered lonely as a cloud. Let me just try. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats high over the vales and hills. So immediately in my mind, I'm going to link lonely cloud floating over. And that is going to then all link me to the image of this cloud and how I feel like this lonely cloud that's floating over the sky. So sometimes assonance is used to link specific words together, to draw specific words together that's going to create me an image. Continuing with functions of assonance, another function is that it can shape my tone and meaning. If I put certain words together and I hammer on certain vowel sounds, I can I can create tone. Tone is emotions. So if I look at an example from a poem that's about death and about how you should fight death. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. In this case, I have a long A that is being emphasized, and it makes the lines sound forceful. And that adds to my tone that is almost desperate, almost pleading, don't. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So don't give in to death. So you're going to have to listen up carefully because assonance can have all of these functions. And we need to suss out what are they trying, what are they doing in your specific example. We're going to just look at a practice question for assonance. I picked something very simple. Go slow over the road, and quite clearly there you can see the repetition of the O, the long O sound. So as I said with alliteration as well, your first step is always going to be to identify the sound device, and that is where your marks should come quite easily. Your second step when it comes to assonance is again, I need to see the link between the sound and the subject. What exactly did they try to do here? So what is the sound, and is it trying to create rhythm, or is it creating a tone, or is it trying to draw my attention? What is its function here? As I said, your step one should be very easy marks, bam, in your pocket, 1 mark. But the repetition of the long vowel O creates a slow rhythm, which links with the idea of going slowly. So that is then the function here. It creates rhythm and it forces me to read this example slowly. Go slow over the road. And the bigger picture is, yeah, that it links with that idea that I want to go slowly, and by forcing me to repeat the O and the O and the O and the O, it links with that idea of also going slowly over the road. Now we're going to look at our last sound device, onomatopoeia. That can either be a word or a group of words, very rarely, but a word that sounds like a noise. They're also sometimes called sound words. So in my example sentence here, the dog knocked over the vase with a crash. Crash. Here is my sound word. Here are some more examples of sound words. Those of you who like cartoons might have seen them. And you can see all of these are words that imitate sounds. So using words that imitate and reproduce real life sounds and actions. Again, it's all about listening. So let's look at some onomatopoeia functions and examples. What onomatopoeia basically does is it just represents a sound. It is an attempt to put sounds into words. So if you were to hear that dog barking in the background, how would you write the woof or the puff or the gif? If you were to write the sound of a word, what would it look like? Would it be the sound of water hitting you, splat, or a pig chowing, or smack against the face as a bow, or the cat went as I stepped on its tail? So it's literally a sound word. You can check out this link as well. That takes you to a fun little onomatopoeia song, but that is completely on you. So, what can you expect? How can I ask onomatopoeia? Let's do a little practice question. There's your example. The pop of the balloon echoed through the room. So the first thing, and I know, yes, there is assonance in there. Well done to those of you who picked it up. But I just want to focus on onomatopoeia now. So I'm going to isolate pop because that is the word that is supposed to represent a sound. So step one, again for easy marks, identify the sound device. Then I want you to name it. And step two, explain the suitability of this sound device. By using this template, the image is that of, then my subject, what is here? What is being, what are you trying to imitate, or what is happening here? The balloon that is bursting. So the onomatopoeia in this case then imitates exactly what the sound that the balloon is going to make. So you all know what's happening next in this picture. Once that needle goes through that balloon, it's going to make a horrible sound. And how am I going to describe that sound? I'm going to use onomatopoeia. So the sound device that I'm going to use is onomatopoeia. The image is that of a balloon bursting, and the onomatopoeia is imitating the sound that a balloon makes when it bursts and it goes pop. Here is a fun little link that you can follow. It's going to take you to a YouTube clip that's going to use some of these sound devices in popular songs, and you can then see whether you have followed and whether you can identify the sound devices. Good luck with that and enjoy.